All right, we're back with one of our friends, of course, from the All-NBA, All-City All-NBA podcast and ESPN, Tim Legler. What up, Tim? What's going on, man?
What's going on? How you guys doing?
Going pretty good, man. Things have changed a little bit since we last spoke to you with the Sixers, but they're still in a pretty good spot. So we wanted to start off with one guy, of course, that really started off and piqued all of our interest, and that's VJ Edgecombe. Hit a little bit of a wall, as the rookie wall, as we know, that does in fact exist. What have you seen that has played a factor in his change? And as he adjusts, what positives have you also noticed as despite the offensive production that he's fighting through?
Look, I think that what he's experiencing right now is just extremely typical, right, for a rookie. He just happened to explode out of the gate, right? I mean, it's like if you looked at this like a horse race. I mean, he basically out and was like a quarter mile ahead of the pack at the beginning for these rookies because of the way he opened the season. And it was not logical to think that that was going to be sustained all year. He's going to have some peaks and valleys. Every rookie goes through this. And I think what he's getting now is more attention in terms of the game plan defensively against this team. He caught the attention of everybody the way he jumped out of the gate. And now his name has moved up on those slots on the whiteboard on the opposing team's locker room, right? Now he becomes a little bit more of a priority how to guard him, particularly making sure that you're back in front of him for the early throw aheads and the transition stuff he was getting early because of that explosive athletic ability. Now teams have more time to be ready. He's on their radar. So now you're going to take away some of the things that he was getting early in the season when he caught some teams off guard, I think, a little bit. So it's normal. There's no question that this guy's the real deal. And he's going to have another stretch here probably sooner than later where he'll have a 10-game stretch where he's averaging over 20 points a game. I'm certain of it. But there's going to be some peaks and valleys for a young player. And I think right now, more than anything, it's adjusting to defensive game plans against him and trying to take away some of his strengths.
Tim, do you think any of it as well is they've had a pretty congested schedule to open the year where he has never had to play back-to-backs. He's never had to go through the travel. He's never had to do a lot of the typical NBA grind. How much of that do you think has played into this? Because he has actually talked to us about he's more tired than maybe he's ever been in his life playing basketball.
Come on, man. Don't you guys remember getting up early on Saturdays and Sundays at the shore in the summer and playing pickup ball from 7 to noon?
100%.
One game after another in 100-degree weather. Come on. So my point is this. He's 20. I don't think that should be a big factor now physically at all. But to your point, you make a good point in this regard. There is an adjustment to having your mind be that taxed that in that compressed period of time in terms of game plan preparation, executing what the coaches are asking you to do, processing who you're playing against. Every night it's a different type of defense you're looking at, different responsibilities on both ends, coming at you a lot faster. The stakes are much higher than what he was used to. So from the mental standpoint, yeah, there's some of that. But physically, I don't think there should be any issue for a 20-year-old to – in fact, at that age, all you want to do is play. You know, the fewer off days, the better for guys like that. So I just really think – look, he's a guy that I've described him as a sort of a combination, and this is pretty laudy comparisons of Jimmy Butler, Russell Westbrook. He moves like Jimmy Butler. He's got the explosive burst of a Westbrook, but he's got a more refined jump shot than either guy. Jimmy Butler is a better mid-range player, but I think it's just in terms of shooting mechanics. I think Edgecombe has an edge over both of those guys. And I think that's all in there. But at the same time, you know, it's not as if this guy is just an absolute pure lethal scorer right away in the NBA level. So some of the stuff he did early really shouldn't have happened. It was, I think, a little bit unprepared for him defensively, his opponents. So what you're seeing now is more typical, I think, of what I expected his year to be. I did think he would have an impact immediately. I loved him, what I saw over the summer, what I saw of him in college, what I saw on film. It's all there. It's just going to be a little bit inconsistent here at the start.
We've got a bunch of updates on the injury front. with both Joel Embiid and Paul George. We'll start off
injury front with the Sixers. You got to be kidding.
Yes. At least we got an update. No, we'll start off on the positive edge of that spectrum.
Okay.
You know, Paul George has been upgraded to questionable. Obviously, he's missed the first 12 games of the season. This would be his debut. How do you see him fitting into this lineup, and what do you think he can add to it?
I mean, look, man, the guy's an elite player. It's, the availability's been questioned. I think that, the two things that have been questioned about Paul George throughout his career are availability and his performance under, really intense pressure. So right now in the regular season, I think, you're going to wonder when he comes back, is he going to stay back? So that's first. There's no doubt the talent level is something that can help this team, particularly his catch and shoot ability. This is a guy that throughout his career has been a very reliable spread the floor catch and shoot threat. When you're playing off of a guy like Maxey and the pressure he's putting on defenses, the amount of times he collapses a defense or forces weak side rotation into the paint because he's so quick at the point of attack, to have another guy out there that has the experience in shot making from deep off catch and shoots like Paul George it's a tremendous advantage. And then if Maxey's off the floor, this is probably your next most trustworthy player to put the ball in his hands, run some ball screen, and make something good happen. He's got a lot of experience with that. He's a very accomplished player. He's frustrating at times because of the injuries. But look, there's no doubt that his talent level is going to help the Sixers. They need another guy that you can put the ball in his hands at the start of a possession or on the second half of a possession when the ball swings and knows what to do with it in terms of operating pick and roll and just the way he operates and moves one-on-one against guys. So the talent level is going to help. Let's just hope that he can stay back once he gets back.
Yeah. On the other side of that, Joel Embiid now missing his third straight game with what they're calling, was it right knee injury management? It was originally some soreness that popped up. This is supposed to be his good knee. Tim, I know you've talked about kind of the difficulty of Joel fitting into this world that they're living in with the young guards and playing up tempo and whatnot. I guess how much of an extra layer does the in and out, don't know whether he's going to be there, add to what's already a bit of a, I don't want to say a clunky fit, but an unnatural pairing between the up-tempo young guys and the way he likes to play?
It's just a whole nother layer to it, because here's the thing. It's one thing to manage the difference with stylistically how you play when he's in or out of the lineup. Like, that's one thing that I thought was going to be very difficult to manage. I've talked about that already, because it is a completely different style, even in limited minutes. The minutes he's out there, it's different for those guards. It's different for the pace. It's different for, what you're trying to do early in possessions. He's going to touch the ball if he's on the floor in the half court, or else why have him out there? So that alone was enough of a challenge. But now on top of it, I have a feeling this idea or notion of, is he even right, hanging in the air all year, and you're kind of wondering on a day-to-day basis, what is his status? How does he feel? When's he going to come back? Even if the guys know kind of the layout and the plan for him, if he was completely healthy all year, there's a plan already in place in terms of minutes restriction, in terms of load and back-to-backs and things like that. So that's already there. And assuming that that's all you had to deal with, that's going to be hard enough. But now you don't even know, as a teammate and those guards and a coaching staff, you don't even know if those nights you've targeted that he was supposed to play, if he's going to be available then those nights. And it's almost feels like this is going to be week to week, unless something else happens with him and they decide, you know what, he needs a surgery, we're going to shut it down for a while. Then it's almost like collectively, at least the players know. You'd much rather deal with that. I played in the NBA. I wasn't a star, but some star players that I was teammates of that went through this kind of thing, where they're out for a while. You don't know when they're coming back. Every day you're getting asked about it. It's the main topic of conversation in the locker room. It's distracting as hell. And it's also just, it feels like there's a weight on you as a player that when finally, okay, that guy's going to get surgery, he's going to be out for 2 months. Not saying you're a better team, but you are definitely freer mentally, the rest of the group, to understand now this is going to be our identity going forward for the foreseeable future. So as long as this is hanging in the air and it's a week-to-week thing, and who knows, it's definitely something that's difficult to play through for everybody else. It is, even though we all know they're better if he's healthy and playing. We know that. That's nobody's saying they're not. But when you have a guy that's like limited, everything's a restriction already, and on top of it, we don't even know if those nights he's going to play. Now you're talking about something that could drag the team a little bit.
Tim Legler from the ALLCITY NBA podcast and ESPN joining us here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. And Tim, what does that even do for the coach when you're trying to game plan for each night? And to your point, look, it's been that way since Nick Nurse has been here. But as you said, the players have to deal with it, then the coaches have to have a different game plan, and you're trying to set things up while they're all out there. Maxey has been incredible, but Maxey still also has to deal with the fact that Embiid is out there or not out there. At least he's the one that has some experience when it comes to that. But on the coaching side, how does that also play out?
Look, I think any head coach would agree with this statement. You either want guys that are physically all in or all out.
Okay.
This sort of purgatorial place that you're put in by you're sitting around waiting in a day-to-day basis is difficult for the coaching staff in terms of preparing your game plan. Now, I'll say this, though, when they get the news, whether it's going to be, okay, he's going to be out the next week, or even that morning, you get the news that morning. Joel woke up this morning. He's got some stiffness in his knee, coach. He's not going to be available tonight. If you know that by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning when you're at shoot around, you can then, as a coach, okay, cool. Put that to the side. Here's what we're going to do. And you can pretty much quickly get yourself into that mode. Here's how we're going to play tonight. It's harder for the players in that regard.
Right.
But I think as a general question, every coach would let me know that the guy's going to be here or he's not. This situation where you're sort of halfway in, it's just tough, man. It's tough to create a game plan and a rotation structure. Every coach has an idea how you want to play against certain teams offensively. And if you're not sure when that guy who's a ball dominant player, a high usage rate player, a half court player is going to surface, it's just tough, man. It's tough for everybody. It's certainly not ideal, but the guy's an MVP. And as long as he's on your roster, and he is going to be available certain nights, you're going to play him and the ball's going to end up in his hands. You're going to try to navigate those nights the best you can.
All right, final one, Tim, when it comes to injuries, and that's Jared McCain. Played 3 games so far, or he's been in 3 games so far. He hasn't looked himself after missing 11 months and the 23 games we saw a year ago, how great he was for the time that he was out there. I wanted to ask you about the shooting aspect of it first, just because of what you did in the league, the great shooter you were, and 10 plus years in the league that you had. How does that bother a shooter when the lower base like that is where you have to really get your push off and the mechanics and the feet set, and it's all muscle memory. But when you come back from an injury like this, you're wearing a brace, you're not trusting your knee. You talked about the mental aspect a little bit earlier with Joel Embiid. What does the mental aspect play with the shooter with the lower base, knowing that you're coming back from a leg injury?
Well, I could just speak to this personally because I go back to 95, 96. That year, I led the league in three-point shooting, and I tore my 3 ligaments in my knee, including my ACL, in game like 80, of that year, like right before the summer came. I came back the following March at the end of the season wearing a heavy brace, felt great physically. In fact, I never felt physically stronger in my life than I did when I came back from that injury because of all the rehab and training you're doing and all the core strengthening and strengthening your quads and all the stuff you're doing you wouldn't have done to that extent because you're trying to protect the knee. I felt great physically wearing a heavy brace, but here's what did change. And this is what he's dealing with now, and he will deal with this for a while. When you come back and you're wearing the brace, and even if it feels great, I'm telling you right now, your timing on your release is not consistent because you're not jumping exactly the same way you did before the injury, which means if every jump and every time you plant and get off the floor when you shoot a jump shot, it's a little bit different in terms of elevation, height. It's not just automatic like it used to be. That means you're releasing the ball at a different place, even if it's a couple of inches different in terms of elevation. that's going to affect your timing of your release. That's going to make the ball either be short or long, and you're going to battle that for a while until the consistency of your jumping and landing comes back, and that's going to take time. The other thing he's dealing with, and I'm telling you right now, it's far harder mentally to come back from an injury like that than physically. Physically, he probably feels great. Mentally, the hardest thing you have to get back is the confidence level of jumping and landing around other players. Because when you tear it, when you go through that and you know exactly what the next 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months is going to be like, you never want to go through it again. So you have to get back to the point where you just trust your ability to jump and land in traffic. Everything's going to be okay. I'm not going to land on somebody and re-injure myself. And because you don't want to ever go through that again because it was terrible. And so that part is holding you back as a player in the beginning. You're not just thinking the game. You're not just out there playing free between the ears and just making reads. Now, you're also thinking about where you are, who's around me, who's closing out on me in a shot. Do I want to land on that guy's foot, end up getting hurt again? So all that stuff is in your head, whether you know it or not. Subconsciously, you're not playing free. It's going to take Jared McCain. I mean, it might take him 15, 20 games before, in some cases, it takes half a season before guys really finally are just like, okay, I'm back. Mentally, I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. Physically, I always felt fine. Let's just go ball now. He's not there yet.
Yeah, to that point, Tim, about the timeline, is that I'm sure it's different player to player, situation to situation. Is there anything specifically that you need to feel or do to get there? Like, is this one where you have one big game and all of a sudden it's like, all right, I'm flushing this injury, it's behind me? Or do you need to feel yourself feel right for, 10 straight games, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it might be?
Yeah, it won't be necessarily one night. One night's going to help. I remember vividly when I came back that next March, right, I told you about, and I was wearing this brace, and I was really struggling to make shots that I could make my eyes closed. I was missing. And I remember one particular night, I think it was Toronto, might have been a different opponent. For some reason, the Raptors were in my head. We were at home, and I had like 5, 6 great looks from the three, and I was 0 for 6 in the game. And I remember going into the locker room after the game. I took the brace off, and this was clunky, heavy metal. You go back to my time. This wasn't the brace these guys are wearing now. This was like a cumbersome thing on your leg. I took it off, and I threw it as hard as I could against the wall. And like some screws flew out of it. Like it was basically trashed in the locker room. But I was blaming the brace because I was like, I don't feel like myself because this thing's on my leg. And of course, they weren't going to just say, okay, you don't have to wear it anymore. I had to wear it to protect myself. But it was like I had to shed that there was something wrong with me. And that doesn't take place until you have X amount of times. You grab a defensive rebound, 2 guys around you, and you come down in the paint, and now you're like, you land and you're good. Like everything's good. A couple of drives to the rim where you get some contact, you get knocked to the ground, and you get up and you're okay. It's all of that conditioning mentally that you're going to be fine. And I can just go play now. So there's no set answer to that question. Certainly having one night where eventually he's going to make 3, 4 shots when he checks into the game in a short period of time, it's going to look like Jared McCain. That's going to help. That's going to push it a little bit further, advance his cause. Doesn't mean it's going to be all good. He's going to be up and down for a while. At some point, like I said, let's give him 20, 25 games, and maybe you start to see some consistency in his performance.
Tim, last week when we were talking about this, when he was sent down to the G League, I did a little show and tell on the show, man, because I tore mine in 2019, and I brought in my old brace. I brought in the 2 braces that I had, the first metal one and then the second one that they put me in there after, and just kind of talked through it of what it was like, even in pickup, where I felt like I was destroying people, right, Tim? But
listen, they stopped practice when I had, I was in Washington with a front court of Chris Webber, Juwan Howard, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, and George Mirasan. That was our front court. And now here I am in practice. These guys are setting picks. I'm fighting over the pick, and I'm jacking their legs up with this brace. So literally, they had to stop practice a couple of times and take me off the floor because they were worried I was going to hurt Chris Webber, with my brace. And it's so all that you're dealing with, and they've come a long way with the technology with that kind of stuff. But I remember the day I graduated from the brace to just a compression sleeve was so liberating, man. And even then, though, you were like, okay, here we go. It's like now you felt like, man, a little naked out there without that security of because when you have the brace on, you're like, there's nothing I can do to hurt myself. When you take that off and you're just wearing a sleeve, it's a whole nother thing you got to deal with. Yeah. That's a progression. So, man, it's just going to take time. And look, if you go back in the history of these injuries, it might take him the entire season and then get into the offseason. It might be next year at the start of the year when Jared McCain looks exactly like the guy that he was before he got hurt.
And just to let everybody know, of course, we're talking about our ACL. His meniscus. It wasn't the ACL, but we're just talking about the meniscus. All right, man. Well, listen, we appreciate you hanging out. What's the TV schedule looking like over the next week or so?
Yeah, I'm headed to Dallas tomorrow. We've got Dallas and the Knicks on Wednesday night, and then we've got the night before Thanksgiving is a big one. We got Houston Golden State, which is going to be a big game out on the West Coast. And then we got a little hiatus for a while. NBC and Amazon take over for a while till Christmas Day, and then after Christmas, it's 2 to 3 games a week probably for me the rest of the season. But those are the next two: Dallas, New York Wednesday, and then next Wednesday, Thanksgiving Eve. Everybody's going to be hanging out with family. Good time to watch an NBA game. Houston Golden State's going to be a good one.
Well, the one you had last week with the Lakers and Spurs lived up to it, so I'm sure you said you wanted to see Luka and Wemby up close, and you got it, and that was a good one. So we'll see how this one plays out for you on Tuesday night. Tim, thanks. Appreciate it. As always, make sure you catch legs on the All City NBA podcast with Adam Morris. And, of course, as he just laid out with the television schedule on ESPN. We appreciate it as always, man. We'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. You got it.
Happy holidays to you.
Same.